As the Duncan Jones film adaptation of Warcraft looms on the horizon, it's important to remember what made the series of games so beloved and unique to begin with: the complex story and mythology, of which there is a lot. So much so that it's completely 100% unfathomable that we could even begin to delve into the intricacies that make the vast history of Warcraft so epic in just one brief YouTube video, but we sure are going to try. Hey guys, I'm Stephanie Panisello with the Leaderboard, and whether you're a longtime fan in need of a refresher or just looking for a crash course before beginning your journey into the Warcraft universe, we're going to hit upon a handful of plot points to help you out. So get ready, everyone, because today we're strapping on our finest armor and escorting you through the rich history of Warcraft. Let's get started. Warcraft of Orcs and Humans. Before we truly begin, it's worth noting that there is an unbelievable amount of lore that takes place long before the plot we're about to get into. But again, we need an entire Warcraft lore series to explain everything that's been told in various games, novels, comics, etc. So we're gonna start where Blizzard did, with a beautiful and bold 90s CD-ROM game for Windows and Macs known as Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. It was a tightly written and programmed masterpiece. Even though the game's graphics have become a bit dated and the story seems a bit simplistic at first, the game's story is actually one of the most complex epics this side of Tolkien, with a breadth and scope as engaging as any story out there, especially ones that involve shooting catapults at an orc and necrolite. As you can probably figure out from its title, this first game in the Warcraft series depicts the war that waged between the warmongering orcs and the humans. As with all war, fact or fiction, things can get a little complicated, and the reasons for fighting tend to vary with perspective. What makes Warcraft unique is that they don't say, here's the good side and here's the bad. Instead, you are given the opportunity to experience both fronts with the human campaign and the orc campaign. In doing so, Blizzard tells a story of a single war, but with varying details that help players piece together how things ended in bloodshed. Much of the first game's story is actually found in what feels like a novella, tucked into the Orcs and Humans instruction manual. There are two sections which depict the times leading up to the war from the accounts of Sir Lothar and Garona from their respective faction. Lothar talks on behalf of the humans. Beginning in the year of 559, he describes the peaceful and prosperous lands encompassing Stormwind Keep in the kingdom of Azeroth. The good King Rin III rules with a kind heart and a benevolence not seen in many past kings. To his kingdom is brought a child, fathered by a conjurer and birthed by a stranger whom disappeared after the birthing. The boy's name was Medivh, and the king accepted him into his kingdom with an open heart. Even at a young age, Medivh trained with his father, the conjurer, in the arts of magic. On the eve of his 13th birthday, Medivh is awoken by a nightmare and a sudden fever. In his father's chambers, the conjurer touches the frightened Medivh's forehead. Medivh feels a great evil burn within him before the unadulterated magic begins to radiate from his body. It took the conjurer and over 100 clerics to control the boy's unwavering energy, and even that, after days of struggling, his father collapsed, drained of all life, and Medivh fell into a coma. Despite the circumstances, the king chose not to harm the boy, and instead, he placed him far away for the safety of the kingdom. 6 years pass. The king's son, Lane, is now at the age of 13, and is thus crowned Prince of Azeroth. The day was merry and filled with festivities, and when suddenly a dark figure flew in on a chilled wind, who could it have been but Medivh, now a fully grown man? The guards attacked but proved to be futile against Medivh's seasoned magic, which froze the men in place. He says he wishes King Rin and the newly crowned prince no ill will, and presents them with a gift, an obsidian hourglass that, as described by Medivh, will continue to flow as long as the king shall reign. Time skip another 6 years, and Atheroz is in a terrible state. The crops are all rotted, the children grow sick, and the sand in the hourglass begins to run out, signifying the end of King Rin's reign. As the last rain of sand falls, a terrible crash is heard, and a party of orcs raid Stormwind Keep. The Orcan horde is merciless, slaughtering any pauper they lay eyes on. Lane steps up to repel the orcs and, incredibly enough, gives them a devastating blow. They fight for 10 years and drive the orcs into Azeroth swamps, using their advanced wartime strategies against the orcs' disorganized free-for-all. At this point in time, King Lane met the stranger Egwene, who claimed to be Medivh's birth mother. She explains that his birth was a way for her to pass on her great power and the wisdom, but unexpected forces corrupted the boy during his long slumber and are now sending him into insanity. The evil within Medivh was Sardras, the fallen champion of the Pantheon and leader of the Burning Legion, the Satan of this universe, if you will. Thus, rather than becoming a conduit for good as planned, he became became a conduit for chaos, and it is him who brought the orcs to Azeroth through a portal he and the warlocks made on their homeworld of Draenor. In a motherly attempt of, I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it, Agwyn attempted to slay her son, but his powers proved a worthy match. In his weakened state, he managed to banish his mother so that she may never set foot in this presence again. Thus rendered hopeless, Agwyn tasked Lane with the destruction of her son. This proved to be but one problem that the king faced, as an orc known as Blackhand had not only managed to call the orcish horde, but also strategized their attacks. Whew, did you get all that? Do you need a moment for notes? Hurry and finish, because the orc side of things, as told by the half-orc, half-human Garona, are up next, and a tad bit more bloody. As stated, the orcs lived on a planet named Draenor. Not all of this last bit is mentioned in the Warcraft manual, but it was eventually revealed by Blizzard, so we'll stick to it here as it makes sense. The orcs lived a significantly more peaceful life long ago, until a demon lord named Kil'jaeden tricked the orcs into drinking the blood of the powerful demon Manaroth, which would give them the strength to flourish. And flourish they did, as this act put the orcs under the blood curse, sending them into a bloodlust, slaughtering anything on their homeworld, including those they had previously been peaceful with, such as the Draenei. When all their enemies were destroyed, they proceeded to fight amongst themselves. The orc warlocks saw this as a problem and sought a way to focus their aggression. It was during this time that the warlocks had dreams of Medivh and Azeroth. These visions led them to a small ripple in space, which they eventually found linked their war-torn world with the then peaceful world of Azeroth that Medivh had shown them. Using their powers, they found a way to send small groups of orcs to scout the new world. Everything was so cute and easy to slaughter because they had only raided a farming village with virtually no defenses. Eventually, the warlocks expanded their rift into what is now known as the Dark Portal, allowing many orcs to flood into Azeroth and storm Stormwind. Their war against humans was underway under the command of Blackhand. After completing one of the campaigns, the game enters an odd place, continuity-wise. Depending on who you play as, either the orc or the humans win the war. Depending on your selection, you're either shown long, crawling text with either Blackhand or Lane, sitting sassily on a throne. The reason this messes with the continuity is because the next game starts with the orcs having won, so it is assumed that that's the true ending. Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness. In Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness stepped up the lore game considerably, with many new characters, locations, and plots. Like the first game, the story is told with the greatest literary form known to man, the instruction manual. This time by Agwyn and the mighty orc warlock Gul'dan. Since the first war, Medivh has been seeking out demons as a source of more power. During his exploration of the Twisting Nether is when he discovered the orc warlock named Gul'dan. Realizing the strength of the orcs, Medivh promised Gul'dan seemingly endless power through the Tomb of Sardras, as long as Gul'dan and the orc horde could destroy the kingdom of Azeroth. This promise is what ultimately led Blackhand and the orcs to taking Stormwind Keep and slaying King Lane, but not before Medivh was taken out by a human raiding party. Blackhand, however, despite leading the orcs to such a momentous victory, was assassinated by Gul'dan's personal assassin, Garona. That's right, all the leaders you grew to know in the first game die. Though more unified than ever, the orcs are still broken up into various clans. The Blackrocks, now led by Doomhammer, are considered the strongest clan, followed by Gul'dan's Stormweaver clan, whom had constructed a formidable navy to search for the Tomb of Sardras in the absence of Medivh. Even with the rise of Doomhammer, a leader fit to rule the Horde with his added support of the trolls and goblins, there was still turmoil. Not only was Gul'dan plotting to overthrow him with his new clan and creation dubbed with Death Knights, but Blackhand's sons Rend and Maim also had amassed a following that sought revenge on Doomhammer. Meanwhile, the humans of Azeroth fled to the lands of Lordaeron, ruled by King Taranis. With the arrival of the refugees came stories of the orcs, which led to Taranis forming the Alliance of Lordaeron, which was not made up of only humans from neighboring nations, but for the first time the elves of Silver Moon, the dwarves of Ironforge, and even the gnomes. All of them setting aside their differences to team up and deal with the orc menace that posed a common threat. It's all very exciting, actually. The battles that ensued between the Alliance of Lordaeron and the Horde is known as the Second War. For most of the war, it seemed that the Horde was unstoppable, as it laid waste to many new lands leading up to the walls of Lordaeron, where the Alliance, despite treasonous acts, had managed to find the Tomb of Sardras. Having heard this, Doomhammer left in search of Gul'dan, which had consequently been wiped out by the demons within the ancient tomb. With its forces in shambles, the Alliance managed to drive the Horde back to the Dark Portal, where the bloodiest battle of the Second War took place. At this time, the orcs were defeated once again, and Doomhammer was captured, while a masterful wizard named Hadgar, whom had been studying Medivh's magic, managed to destroy the dark portal's link between Draenor and Azeroth, effectively ending the Second War. Soon it was discovered that though weakened, the dark portal's connection between the worlds still existed. Knowing that another attack from the Horde was imminent, the Alliance sent an army led by Hagdar into Draenor to lead them once and for all. Little did they know that many orcs still remained on Draenor and were being led by Ner'thul, a powerful orc that had trained a young Gul'dan many years ago. Upon arriving in Draenor, Edgar quickly realized that Ner'zhul had opened its rifts in the twisting Nether, which in turn began to rip the planet apart. Fearing the destruction could leak into Azeroth, Edgar managed to permanently destroy the dark portal from the Draenor side, trapping him and his men on the foreign world as it was torn asunder into what is now known as Outland. Warcraft 3: Reign of Chaos. If you think things get any less complicated in Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos, you're sadly mistaken. Having lost the war, the remaining orcs on Azeroth had been placed in internment camps, where they then became apathetic in their existence. During this time, much like the Horde of the Second War, the Alliance was facing some inner turmoil. The Elves, having felt that they were left down by their allegiance due to the destruction of their forest, left the Alliance, followed by the humans of Gilneas and Stormgrade, whom felt they were better off on their own. However, Azeroth, Kol, Tyros, and Dalaran stood by Lodrian in the Alliance. In the following 13 years, peace returned to the lands of Azeroth, now rebuilt, once again prosperous under the new king, Varian Rin. Not all was calm, however, as an orc known by the name of Thrall had terrible dreams of beasts and chaos heading to Azeroth, and a prophet telling him to rally his people. During the First War, a newborn Thrall was abandoned in the wilds and discovered by a human named Adelis Blackmore, who took the baby orc back to his forest of Durnhold. There, Thrall was raised to become both intelligent and a potent warrior, in which Blackmore hoped to use to gain power. Having learned of his people's current state of imprisonment, he escaped to Slaver's fortress and sought the Frostwolf clan that was exiled by Gul'dan during the First War. Upon his findings of the Frostwolves, he is told of his lineage as the son of the once proud Frostwolf leader Duratan. For the first time, Thrall remained with the Frostwolves and studied the ancient magic of the shaman under an orc named Drekthar, until the time came when Thrall became the new war chief of the Frostwolves. With the help of his Frostwolves, the undefeated Warsong clan led by Grom Hellscream and the aged Ordrum Doomhammer, Thrall stormed Blackmore and the internment camps, bringing rise to the new horde. Eventually, after fleeing to the continent of Kalimdor, where they meet and team up with the native Tauren race, Hellscream soon becomes corrupt by none other than Monaroth, the demon whose blood set the orcs on their bloodthirsty path all those years ago. Slaying the beast, Thrall and Hellscream lift the blood curse, but at the cost of Hellscream's life. Meanwhile, humans have their own terrible problems to contend with. Besides Thrall's new horde, whom continued their rise with a rekindled troll allegiance, King Taranis was visited by a crow. But not just some random bird, this crow turned out to be Medivh, but in an uncorrupted state. Apparently overcome with guilt for having caused the orc invasion, he warns the king of a new trouble heading for the humans. The king ignores Medivh's warnings, including the proclamation that Taranis must find a new champion. Perturbed, the King Taranis decides to send his son, the noble and absurdly heroic Arthas Menethil, to investigate. What follows was a tragedy worthy of King Lear. As Arthas investigated, he realized that the imminent threat was not the Horde, but an uprising of undead known as the Scourge, led by the Lich King, who was created by Kil'jaeden by repurposing the soul of Ner'thul. However, Arthas believed the leader of the undead army to be a demon named Mal'Ganis. Are you confused yet? Arthas continues onward, tracking down Mal'Ganis to the frozen northern continent of North End, where the Lich King resides. Upon arrival, he meets with his old mentor Moradin, Bronzebeard. Moradin tells Arthas of a legendary sword called Frostmourne, which laid somewhere in Northrend. As he proceeded, Arthas succumbed to the corruption of Lich King and slowly transformed into a cruel and hollow man, burning his army's boats so that they have no means of leaving. He continued in search of Frostmourne and Mal'Ganis. Upon discovery of the legendary blade, Moradin warned Arthas of the weapon's curse, which he read in an inscription. Giving in to Frostmourne's call, Arthas pleaded with the spirits to release the sword from its icy tomb. The ice shattered, wounding Moradin, yet Arthas was too enamored with Frostmourne to help. With the blade in hand, he left his former mentor for dead and set out to find Melagans, whom he struck down. Frostmourne had claimed the soul of the once noble paladin and turned him into a Death Knight. Soon Arthas returned home, fully corrupted by Frostmourne, to kill his father, King Taranis, and lay waste to Lordrian with the Scourge and the Burning Legion led by Archimonde. With such a threat looming over the world of Azeroth, old disdain was put on hold, as unlikely truces were formed between the Night Elves, humans, and even orcs. Yeah, orcs and humans side by side. But you never saw that one coming. United, the various races of Azeroth impeded the onslaught of Arthas and the Legion for the time being. As time passes, Archimonde is defeated, but the war lingers. Civil unrest breaks out amongst the Scourge, and from it rose the Forsaken, led by Banshee Queen Sylvanas Windrunner, whom took control of the ruins of the Lordrian and are seemingly less evil than their Scourge counterparts. Arthas, having fled to the Northwind once again, makes his long trek to the Frozen Throne, where he becomes one with the Lich King and takes full control of the remaining army of undead. While back on Kalmador, Thrall and his new horde from Durator and their new capital city, Orgrimmar. It is in this uncertain time of Azeroth's history where we end our video, as it leads into the beginning of Warcraft's largest saga to date, World of Warcraft, which continues and expands upon everything mentioned to this point and then some. If you found this video enthralling to any extent, I highly recommend giving the game a go, as it's not only fun, but truly epic. Thanks for watching the Leaderboard's history of Warcraft. As we said, there was no possible way to cram everything into this one video, so do us a favor and let us know what your favorite part of Warcraft lore is in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and check out some of our other videos. We have new videos dropping every week, so let us know what game you want us to cover next. And if you like getting more from your games, subscribe to the Leaderboard so you can game smarter.